All right, and welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro Podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and I am so excited about this interview. I have been thinking about it all week. We have Kiersten Parsons Hathcock. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, it's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. No, it's great. And I get the same because people half the time can't say my name. But she is an author of Little Voices, How Kids in Spirit Helped a Reluctant Medium Escape and Heal from Abuse. She is an award-winning self-taught carpenter, furniture designer, and founder of Mod Mum Furniture, a kids' furniture company, which was featured on ABC's Shark Tank. She is also a TEDx speaker and an intuitive medium who works for the National Institute for Law and Justice, helping detectives and families uncover truth in missing persons and homicide cases. In her previous work life, Kiersten was a staff writer for Northern Arizona University and TV marketing executive for A&E TV Network and the History Channel. As an Ohio native, she now resides in Phoenix, Arizona with her husband, Scott, daughters, Natalie and Grace, and their pup, Scout. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I had to lock Scout out so she wouldn't come in and bark while we were talking.
Yeah, right.
But no, thank you so much. I've been so excited to chat with you too, honestly. And I just adore the work that you do. And I'm going to dive into everything. I've already watched a few other podcasts, so I'm excited to keep going.
Fantastic.
But yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact that you do carpentry, furniture, it's funny. I have a little history. Some people might laugh, but I did woodwork all through high school, even won an award one year in grade 9. So I'm definitely not a carpenter like you are, but a family of carpenters. And I really enjoy that process, that art form, that whatever.
Yes.
And that's so cool that you do that. And although we could talk about that, I really want to focus on the fact that you are an intuitive medium and you specialize in an area of mediumship that I absolutely have the hardest time and choose not to do the work in homicide and missing persons cases. And so the fact that you do that work, I am, for one, completely in awe of your skill and ability, and I want to know all about it. And also, I think it's so fantastic you do this work and you're talking about it because this needs to have a voice, have a place to be heard and a place to access it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
thank you.
With that being said, can you kind of take us through a bit of your story as to, first of all, how you got into mediumship, how that happened, and
absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny, as you were reading that bio, I started laughing inside thinking like, that just sounds like it's made up. like who chooses that life path, right? And that career path. But I honestly did not choose mediumship. I was the furthest from the spiritual world that you can get. I was raised in Ohio by a very grounded family. Both my parents are teachers. My dad's a football coach. So that was my upbringing. I believed that there was a higher power, but I did not necessarily go to church because we wanted to just spend that time together as a family, as we were growing up. So that's my background. However, that all changed when I turned 36. So I was actually just living my life. I had 2 little kids, a wonderful husband living in Los Angeles. I had started the furniture company because I had left the job with A&E and the History Channel, and we needed an income. We needed to pay the gas bill. And I just figured, you know what, I think I can do this. Now I understand that was actually channeled. But at the time I thought, well, I'll try making toy boxes. Why not? Yeah. So, I'm living this life. I'm going to Target. I'm spending too much money. I'm just a normal life. And then out of the blue, I start seeing things and hearing things. And to be honest with you, I actually thought I had just breathed in too much polyurethane in the garage for probably the first 6 months. I was terrified to tell anyone. I was noticing that they were children's voices. So I would be in the garage building furniture and I would hear mom, and I, reflectively, right? You would just naturally turn, especially, if you're a mom. So I looked and I thought, oh wait, the kids are at school. Wait, who was that? So I started thinking, I'm either crazy and they're going to put me away, or there's something to this. And so it gradually got bigger and bigger. I started to sort of get hit over the head with it. And it led me to, I feel like my guides and angels definitely needed to get my attention, but they also tried to go a little bit slow with me. So my first channeling actually happened with people that I knew or sort of knew.
Yeah.
So I would read something on Facebook from a kind of friend that maybe I knew a long time ago in high school, but didn't really know. And I would read that they had lost their son. And then suddenly the son is standing in our kitchen and we're talking. And, of course I was thinking, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't even know if this is real. How can I reach out to them? They've already been through so much pain. I don't want to be the laughing stock of my, Defiance, Ohio. I don't want to bring this to my parents. So I went through all of those emotions that you go through, especially when it just comes out of the blue. I had no memory at that point of having any kind of interaction with spirit as a child. So at 36, I'm hit head on. I start to reach out to different people, though. I got the courage to do that. And that boy's parents was one of them. And I reached out and they validated everything that I was sharing and said, you couldn't possibly know this, which then led me to have more confidence, which then led me down the path of like, what is this stuff? I'm literally Googling, everything, right? I had never met a medium in my life. I had never even looked into spirituality. I didn't believe in the afterlife. I'm a very scientific, I believe in empirical research, right? So you can imagine this was shocking.
Yeah.
So I start to notice then that a lot of children who weren't people that I, belonged to people that I knew, were coming in, and they were coming in out of the blue. I had some connection in some way, but they were coming in and they were sharing that they were sexual abuse survivors, and many of them had been murdered by pedophiles.
Wow.
And we're talking back, 50s, the 60s, the 70s. It's pretty much spans all of the time. That's where it got really tricky, because what do you do with that? And I'm very justice minded, and I'm also very much a DIYer, as you can tell. And I thought, I can't just sit on this. I have to do something. And thankfully, Spirit led me to the right people. So over the course of the last 10 years, I'm 40. I had to think about this. I'm 48. I think I'll be 49. I might have that wrong by a year, but I know I'm not 50. I know that.
Right. Okay.
Over the course of the years, I built relationships with cops and detectives all over the country. And one of them I can share a little bit more about, because he's very open about our relationship. And we actually co-founded the National Institute for Law and Justice together just this past year. And he's a retired NYPD detective who also still works on many, many cases all over the world. So I got lucky in that I was able to form those relationships. They trusted me. I was able to help find evidence and things that I don't talk about publicly. And I was able to reach out to some of the parents and kind of help be the telephone line, right? Like you are for them. Yes. So that is sort of the nutshell of what happened to me, which, is a crazy enough story in itself. But there is a reason they were coming to me, which I didn't understand until about 3 years into that. So thankfully, by that time, I had enough validation, and I believed in myself, and the cops believed in me. And so all that time, I don't do this for a living; it's just volunteer work. But all that time, I'm doing this sort of undercover, right? I'm not really talking about it. And suddenly I realized that they were actually coming to help me as much as I was helping them, because I start seeing myself in scenes, flashes that I had no memory of, but I could tell that it was me as a child. And I found out that I had been sexually abused and raped between ages of 3 and 6 by a distant uncle.
Wow.
So I finally was able to, have an answer to the why. I thought, well, maybe it's because I build kids' furniture, and maybe it's because I love kids. My life has sort of been wrapped around my kids and other people's kids. And, they always seem to be really open and free with me. So that was the reasoning in my mind why these kids were coming to me, not understanding that, oh my God, I'm actually an abuse survivor too. I just didn't perish the way that they did, at the hands of a predator.
Right. Wow. It's interesting how the spiritual journey so often comes from a healing that we move through, which allows us then either a frequency or a space of compassion to help others heal. I hear this so often with mediums and healers, is that the experiences that bring them to their skills are based on shared experiences. Mm-hmm. Right. It's just, so it's interesting to hear that part of your story, but also interesting that was kind of kept dormant for you for so long.
Very.
But the whole thing too, right? Like the whole thing was kept dormant.
Yes, very much so. And I think it's why they had to hit me over the head, so it wasn't like I was gradually getting chills. I was actually full on chills seeing kids walk across the kitchen floor, into a wall, right, and disappear. I literally really thought I was going crazy. And it was only at that point then that I realized, I have all of this hidden trauma in me, so little by little, my subconscious was letting go of some of those memories and bringing them to the surface, but they were also helping me figure all of that out. And my journey and like Little Voices, my book, it has kind of 3 acts. So those are the first 2 acts. And then what is incredible about the tail end of my story is that, my husband and I ended up splitting up. My world went crazy when I finally came to grips, with, oh my God, I'm a sexual abuse survivor. And I didn't realize that was going to happen. I fell in love with a predator. I didn't know that he was a predator at the time. Of course, he was an abusive predator. So here I am for 3 years in a domestic violence situation with an abusive predator. And I had been working on all these cases while I'm with him. And it was right in front of me. And I noticed that, no matter how intuitive I was and how much validation I had and how much I trusted myself when I'm working on cases, I was totally ignoring my intuition while I was in the abuse and not understanding the wounded attachment part of why I was attracted to this man in the first place. So in the end, the kids ended up coming. I have several of them that are around me all the time. I have children around me a lot, but there are a couple that are my peeps and they were slowly giving me clues. Kiersten, this is not what it seems. By the 3rd year, when I was getting the restraining order, it was go get it now. Here's what you need to do. You have to make sure the cops call him. You have to make sure, so it was, they were guiding me out of it. And when I finally got out of it, they said, we've been waiting for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my husband and I got back together and he understood, everything. Like he healed a lot of codependency within himself and understood what that was all about. Thank God he's intuitive. I healed all of the trauma that I had unknowingly, been locked in. And so now I finally feel kind of like I'm at that point where I'm like, yay, now I'm finally here, now I can really help in a bigger way, which is why when Mark Pucci, who's the detective in New York, said, let's do this. I said, absolutely, let's do this.
Wow. What a journey. Hey. And how your awakening really took you through so many levels and plot twists, but those plot twists would become the trauma points that turn into your growth and your confidence and your knowings. Right. And that's such a hallmark of deep spiritual journeys, is when we really recognize that and also move through it. And I love the fact that you and your husband got back together, not because you should, or it's the nice happy ending. It's literally your journeys gave you that space to mend, grow, and heal, both of you, and then come back together in a partnership, moving forward with who you are now.
Yes, exactly. I mean, and I couldn't ask for a better partner, a better man. I mean, we've been through it, we've been through it. He has seen me through all of that spiritual stuff. We were good friends and, obviously there was still deep love there. So I chronicle a lot of that. That's actually one of the most beautiful parts of the book is that, while you see the children coming in and out and giving me hope and helping me, and I'm working on cases, you also see that there was still so much love there and so much respect. And then you see how we were able to both recognize what was broken in our marriage. And I don't know, I mean, we talk about the fact that I don't know if we would even be together, had that not happened. We might not have been. Because it was talk about hitting you in the head, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we were, people on the outside, oh, you guys were the perfect couple. on Shark Tank, we'd seem like the perfect couple. And it was right around that time, everything was starting to crack.
Right.
Yeah.
Those universal tower moments that lead us to realign on our purpose, right? So let's talk about your purpose. Let's talk about how it is for you when you're dealing with missing persons or homicide, because we kind of touched on it in the beginning. I have had a couple people ask me on 3 different occasions throughout my, years of this journey to either tune in to someone they couldn't find, someone that was missing, or the true story behind a homicide. And that's very, very challenging work for me to do. And I remember one of them, when the lady was asking me about this missing person, I could already see where the body was. I could see, the log behind. And I got so afraid in that moment. And I was like, I can't handle this. I can't handle that energy. And so I said to Spirit, this part of mediumship is not for me. I don't have the frequency to do that. How does that work for you? What is that process like for you? I would love to kind of, journey inside your mind or your heart or your experience with that, as much as you're comfortable sharing, of course.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, obviously there's details I can't share, but I can tell you that, I think because I didn't understand and I didn't remember how intuitive I was. I didn't remember the spirit interactions as a kid. I wasn't looking for any of this. For the most part, the children that I talk to have either been murdered, they maybe were miscarried, aborted, they had some sort of traumatic, very quick death. It's very, very specific. And that happened from day one. So I actually, I can, like, if my grandfather was here or yours, I can definitely say grandpa just said, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't seem to be what I'm here to do on this earth. So I think some of dealing with the pain of it was getting used to figuring out how to compartmentalize. And so for me, in the beginning, and I do talk about this, I would wake up and I would be screaming and crying because not only, like, I obviously channel while I'm awake, but also I'm getting information right while we sleep. And I would be basically a child that was being buried alive, and I'm screaming, I'm not dead yet. I'm not dead yet. And so I would wake up and Scott would say, oh my God, are you okay? Okay. And I mean, there were many, many times through all of this that I thought, this is too hard. I don't know if I can handle this. So I had to kind of come to grips with, okay, you were given this opportunity. Do you want to do this? Because I had a choice if I wanted to or not. And if you do want to do this, which was ultimately what I felt, how can you manage it?
Yeah.
So for me, it's really about, I set a lot of boundaries in terms of my time. And, I'm here to live a human life like we all are. And I'm here to be here for my kids, but I'm also here for them. And so I set up boundaries and set up rules with my guides and angels. Beautiful. And so, it's very specific, like only whoever it's for my highest good and theirs to come to me will. Otherwise, I was getting inundated every time I would watch a news story. So that would be the first thing I would say is, I had to do that. Talking to grieving parents is never easy. I'm in tears a lot. I have kids of my own. I'm a human being. How do you do that without having that type of emotion? So I do let the emotion in, but when I'm actually working on a case, let's say I have some information and background and I'm trying to locate and I'm getting information, it's sort of like putting on a detective's hat, right? And so I have to kind of come at it like I were a doctor or I have to silo myself like, okay, now it's time to just get this done. Let's figure out what the facts are. And then after that, I can let myself feel the emotion of it and then release it.
Absolutely. And I love that you're saying that about boundaries, because I think no matter how people practice their connection with spirit, we need boundaries because spirit will just come in and they're not coming in to, take advantage of situations, but they're just like, hey, you're available. Oh, hey, you're available. Hey, you're available. It's like texting. Right? Literally. We have to put our phone down sometimes.
It is.
So it's that kind of thing. So I love that you're talking about boundaries and compartmentalizing, because that that would make absolute sense. I know in my practice, when I'm bringing some tragic ways people have passed or sad news or things like that, it is about stepping back and simply honoring the role as the medium in that moment.
Yes.
Not the person per se, the medium. Here's the information. And then after, you can go cry about it and ground and journal and do all the whatever things you do to release that energy.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So another question for you is, when you're connecting in on a case, like say there was somebody watching this that, you know, has a really unfortunate situation of having a missing child or a deceased child with holes in the story, and they connect with you. Do you connect best simply through the name of the person? Do you need a picture? Do you need to hold something of theirs?
I've never been the holder. Okay. I've always kind of thought, oh, I should try that. You know, because I see other mediums do that, and maybe I should try it. I'm just still kind of, you know, rolling with the punches, kind of. I'm just going with whatever has come to me. So in that case, a lot of times it's when I'm reading something. Sometimes it'll be when I see a photo, but for the most part, I noticed that for me, it had to do with reading. So it doesn't really necessarily have to do with the name, because sometimes I'll be given the name.
Okay.
The way it's worked for me ever since I can remember, back in like 2011, I guess, when it started, is they come to me. I don't seek them out. And as far as like, what if someone is dealing, you know, with a horrible situation, my heart breaks for them. You know, now we do have this nonprofit organization set up in the US where we're just getting it all set up, where they can actually basically put a submission in, a case submission with all the detail that they want us to know. And then, you know, we're talking about, like, we have, we're also very much entrenched, especially since we're in the Southwest, and in helping find missing and murdered Indigenous women and children. So we have quite a few folks who are Indigenous that are coming onto our team, who are also intuitive. But for the most part, it's a mix of boots on the ground, detective work, cadaver dogs, DNA work, all of that, mixed with the intuitive side, mixed with the cultural reverence and respect, you know. So that's kind of what we're doing. So parents can get a hold of me that way. People can get a hold if there's a missing, you know, if they're missing their sister or whatnot, they can go that route. It's called nilj.org. And they can sign up online right now just for information, because like I said, we're still getting it all set up. And it's kind of it's a big project, you know, just getting it set up from that standpoint.
Absolutely.
But as far as I'm concerned, you know, they just come to me. So some of the children come to me and they say, can you please take these messages and keep them? My parents will be coming to you.
Oh, wow.
So what was crazy about that is that back, you know, in 2011, I was on Shark Tank. I was keeping everything quiet because it's so much easier to be the woman who is a carpenter and on Shark Tank. And there I'm still getting these types, you know, I was getting these messages. I'm like, okay, I'll write them down. I've got a whole file cabinet folder full of messages that I just keep. I couldn't see how the hell were they going to find me? Because I wasn't going to come out with this. You know, I was scared to death. Now there's a book coming out in September through Postal Press, Simon & Schuster. Now, you know, we have a nonprofit organization. So now it's making sense.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to find me. So some of the cases I've worked on, you know, those are closed or they're leading to other places where we're finding, and, you know, in the case of pedophiles, there's always typically a ring. So there's a lot of connections there. And but for the most part, there's a lot of kids who've already shared messages that their parents just haven't found me yet. And maybe some of those folks will find me here, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Wow. So when you connect in with these children and, you know, the messages of the specific details and things that need to be said or shared, do you find that after that is shared, there is like, and again, I don't want to oversimplify it, but do you notice that with that communication being had, there becomes this level of peace and like an easier, again, I'm really cautious with my words, but more grace in finding the peace in that, or acceptance or calm after?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. Honestly, I do. And I know you do, you know, obviously you say you don't work on a lot of that type of thing, but I know that you also channel quite a bit of hard stuff, so I see peace, and I see a little bit more just of an understanding of, well, okay, obviously this is not something I ever wanted to happen, and bad things do happen, and that is awful. Like I wish I had an idea other than I do believe in soul contracts. I do believe we play roles in our lives to learn and grow, and this is Earth School and all that. But I don't necessarily even know what to tell them sometimes, about why this awful, horrible thing happened to their child. But just knowing that, they're still around them has given them, I think, a lot of peace and understanding, and they can see how their children are still helping them. I had just this past week, one of the kids that, one of the first kids that came through, his name is Nate, came through again. And I hadn't passed a message to his family in a while. But he came through with such specific stuff because his family was having a tough time. And it happened the day of when he had an AVM, which is when his basically died of a brain bleed at 13. And he was able to share these messages with them that were so specific, even a specific song that he was making me hear. And I'm saying to, his dad, hey, yeah, this is what he's saying. And he said, oh my God, I've had that in my head for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I think every time I talk with them, there's still this peace, there's a little more peace each time, I think. And then I know it ebbs and flows, but there's more peace and understanding that they're still here with us.
And I think that's the biggest piece out of it is that making that connection in real time.
Yes.
To validate that we do carry on and we are still present and they are still present. They're just not embodied, but it's this idea that the cycle carries on and then we will connect over with them at some point also.
Right.
Right. And so that's why I really love the work that you're doing in such a challenging, I don't know what the word is, not topic, but like the fact that you're dealing with homicides and missing persons in that area, to be able to make those connections in such a way, I think is just so important, because I think a lot of that stuff just kind of gets pushed to the side because it's like, well, I don't know.
Right.
A lot of like, there's no answers, there's no this. So those that can connect and make that connection in the spirit world to bring answers or find the body or understand more of what happened, I just think it's so impactful.
Thank you. Yeah, I do too. And I think that I've been frustrated working on cases, that I've thought, why is this so hard to get this one last detail? And then they'll say, because it's not time yet. And, I think we all I think that actually taught me a lot, because I didn't understand that there is a lot of divine timing in some of this, and other things affect what's happening. Like, for instance, this book, I was turned down 44 times by 44 different, 44 seems to be a number for me, 444. Yeah. So I was turned down 44 times, yet Spirit kept saying the publishing house has a tree in its logo and it's under a bigger house. Right. Well, it's not a conventional book. People didn't know how to sell it or market it. And when, by the end of, I think it took 2 years to actually sell it in, the publishing house ended up having a tree in its logo. It was the last one.
No way.
Now, you're right. So that whole time I'm thinking, I don't get it. I know it's supposed to, like, they're telling me it's going to happen. And this is going to help a lot of people like me. Like, I wish I would have had this book when I was going through everything I was going through, but why isn't it happening? And then we were in the Donald Trump era at that point, right? There was a lot happening. So the timing of this book, I think, was key too. So it's interesting, like how my agent didn't pitch them until last on the, and I think that I have to keep remembering that when I get frustrated that maybe, one of the cases I'm working on still isn't completely finished yet.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because it is common for people to ask, like, if they're telling you this, if they're telling you about how they passed and all this, why aren't they saying, I know sometimes I get it, they're like, we had talked about a sacred word or a secret word that they would bring through, or what is the word, or what is this? And sometimes that word doesn't come through. but an explanation of what they did the day before does.
Right.
And so I find that interesting. You say that too. And it does come down to timing. Sometimes that word will come, or that piece will come at the perfect moment when it can pull everything together.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ginette, I mean, I can tell you right now, and I've said this before, if I were to do one of those mediumship tests, you know, like where they study mediums and they get certified or whatever, I would fail miserably because it just comes in, you know, I'm not trained that way. I simply just sort of receive, write down, or reach out, and there you go. But in terms of like that type of thing, that scares the crap out of me. For people, like, they said they were going to say this. No. I just am like, hey, I'm the telephone line. I can't make them say anything. I can't make them come in as much as I would want to. It truly is, they come in when they're supposed to.
And I think that's an important thing to be said. And I think for people, like, bringing that to the light is important, because then it helps people understand how mediumship can work. Right. Because I think people think, I mean, although in many ways it is free flow conversations between us and spirit, and we, share what we get, but it's not as free flow sometimes as it is you and I right now having a conversation where it's like question, answer. And so we're trying to explain a 4, 5, or 6D construct within a 3D reality, and it's not quite the same.
It's not. And even just the fact of, I sometimes our human minds, right, are trying to put it together. So in the case of the father that I passed the message about, this very specific song, my natural instinct was to try and puzzle piece it together.
Yes.
So I said, well, he's showing me, himself in a car, like a Camaro, which actually aligns with the time period of that song. I didn't get that at that time, but I'm just writing it all down, and I'm like, and this is the song. Okay. So it probably means that today he's going to move the radio dial for you a little bit. He'll come in with some kind of music to show you, not realizing necessarily that it had already been in his father's head for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I didn't understand about mediumship when all this started to happen, is that we're getting a lot of impressions, right? A lot of information. And sometimes our human brains want to help put it together. And I have to stop myself.
To fill it in. Yeah,
right.
Totally. Absolutely. And that's a big piece of the learning, for sure.
Yes.
It's not filling in the blanks and being okay with saying, I don't know. Like, this is what I get. I don't know what it means, or I don't get anything else.
Right.
Right. Because I can imagine too, you're sitting there with parents and you want to help them feel better, and you want to fill in those blanks, but there's a real strength or willpower, maybe we could say, in staying strict to what you're getting.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, and I think I had to learn that because, of course, being an analytical person, being very scientific, it's hard for me. I have to have all of this empirical, like, proof, like, show me that this is true. And so I remember even talking with a grieving parent. In the beginning, I worked with a lot of grieving parent groups because I knew that their kids were passing messages to me. And then I got to know their kids, which was pretty amazing too. And this is sort of a side note, because we've just had this horrible tragedy, right, in Texas. And I just recently shared that, what I have learned on my end is that in some of these cases, when those children pass, they don't recognize anybody, right, on the other side, because their grandparents and their parents are still in your human bodies. And so other children help them cross too. And people don't know that, but now those kids come in and they talk to me, and if I'm helping a child cross, or I'm helping someone cross, they're there too. It's pretty cool, that piece of it. But it's a lot of learning. It was a lot of learning for me, and to try and figure out how to do this and to not pass, something where I'm humanly just putting it together. I was thinking about a particular mom who the child was showing me, who died of miscarriage. The child was showing me a pink room with pink blinds. And so I said, well, this is what I'm seeing, and I don't know what it means. I'm sorry, I'll just let you know. And she was like, well, I don't know what that means either. And I'm sure she walked away thinking, well, I didn't really get a lot from that.
Yeah.
6 months later, she sent me an email and said, I can't thank you enough. I didn't even think I could get pregnant again. And, I learned that we're having a girl. Like I'm pregnant and it's a girl. And so my son was trying to show me that there was a little girl coming, and that was the pink room with the pink blanket. So, you know,
That's beautiful.
So I try and just share whatever I see. And I also try to protect them, you know, the parents, from details that they don't.
That's not going to benefit them. Yeah,
No.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this is fantastic. I sure appreciate you sharing just a little window into your world and how it came about and how it is for you. I admire the work that you're doing. And I definitely encourage people that are listening to this to reach out to you if they're looking for this type of help. And so we'll put all the links to you, the nonprofit organization as well below, so people can connect in. And also definitely we'll promote your book, which is coming out September 2022, correct?
Thank you. Yes.
And where is that going to be available? Kind of everywhere? Amazon?
Everywhere. Yeah. From what I understand, it'll be everywhere. So it's on pre-order, or it's available for pre-order on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, on my website, KierstenHathcock.com. I did want to mention really quickly, because I don't think I said this, with the National Institute for Law and Justice, our mission and plan, because we literally just got our 501c3, which is our tax exempt status, in like 6 weeks, which normally it takes like 6 months.
That's right.
So we were really excited. But our goal is to raise enough money where families don't have to put anything out. You know, this is not coming out of their pocket. We are going to be, that's the hardest thing about some of these cases. They go to cold case so quickly that, you know, it's coming out of their pocket to hire a private investigator. So our organization will not be charging families to then further look into it. And we have a worldwide network of investigators already coming on board.
Amazing. So one last little thing here is your book, again, is called Little Voices: How Kids in Spirit Helped a Reluctant Medium Escape and Heal from Abuse. So definitely, to everybody, check that out, pre-order if you wish. And Kiersten, I have to thank you again so much for sharing all of this on the show. It's just a wealth of information, and I'm grateful to make this connection with you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to know you, and I cannot wait to dive into more of what you've already put out there, and to watch everything else that's coming. So we'll definitely keep in touch.
For sure. Okay. And
to
everyone watching and listening, thank you guys so much for joining. Do check out avalonspirit.com if you are looking to expand your consciousness. And I will see you guys again next week.